Do you know what is the most important skill in developing a peaceful mind? It's something called having mental adaptability. It's the ability to approach a situation and be able to be calm no matter what is happening. My name is Travis, and I'm a therapist who's passionate about self-development. And today, I'm in the Great Smoky Mountains, and I want to talk about how having more mental adaptability, being able to develop the skill of going with the flow more, is a significant gateway to having more peace of mind. In life, so many different things are going to happen, and things don't go according to plan often. I've been thinking about this a lot as right now I'm in the Great Smoky Mountains, in the middle of a rainforest in spring, and it rains a lot. But you don't really know when or where it's going to rain. So I've been really thinking about this as trying to plan out my day, see what hikes I want to do, see what adventures I want to have. And sometimes it's hard to really figure out how you want to navigate the day. I've often found myself to be a much more mentally rigid person, meaning I like to have a plan and I like to be able to do it. I like to know what's going on. And in a lot of ways, that stops you from achieving peace of mind. And as much as we like to control all the situations in our environment, all the different variables, that's not really how life works. And yet we will fight tooth and nail just to have a little bit more control, just to try to fool ourselves into thinking that is the way to have peace, to make sure everything happens according to our plan. But the reality is, to achieve more mental peace is to really develop the skill of learning how to go with the flow a bit more. This is very hard for many people, especially people who like to have more sense of control in their lives and really feel safer, and they really feel more calm when they convince themselves that they control all the elements, which we never really do. If we really pay attention to it, there's actually very, very little that we really truly control. But we like to convince ourselves that if only I control all the elements here, then everything will be okay. And mental flexibility is the ability to recognize that even if I don't control all the elements, or things don't necessarily go the way that I think they will or want them to, then I will also be okay. And this is really hard for just about everybody, meaning we all, to an extent, like to feel like we have some control in our lives. In many ways, this is changing our mindset from being outcome-oriented to really goal-oriented. We need to come up with a good goal. Let's say for this, for example, if my goal is to do everything that I want to do exactly the way I want to do it while I'm in the mountains, well, that's probably not going to work out, and I'll probably be left feeling dissatisfied. But if my goal is to have an incredible adventure, no matter what, then, well, that's a much easier goal to attain and probably a much more realistic goal. So a lot of this mental flexibility really starts with having a more appropriate goal. It's changing our mindset from being outcome-oriented to goal-oriented. A lot of times we rely on specific outcomes to bring us this mental peace, to bring us this happiness, to bring us this fulfillment. But we don't control the outcomes. Even as much as we convince ourselves that we do, we don't control the outcomes really at all. We can put our best effort into it. But there's so many things that are out of our control that influence the outcomes in almost every situation. So by shifting our focus from having the right outcome that we want to just having a good goal that's much more realistic, well, that's going to allow us to have greater mental flexibility and achieve much more peace of mind throughout our life. So why do we want to control all the elements in our life? Why do we feel this need to try to know what's going on at every moment, to try to have everything all figured out? A lot of this comes down to how our mind tells you that we should calm it down. We like to know what's going on because it gives us this almost false sense of control in a lot of ways. That's kind of how anxiety of the mind works. So when we want to figure out what's going on, what should we do? Our mind is really going to try to focus on, okay, what can we control? How do we know all the different elements of this story? How do we have mastery over our environment? When you're out in nature and you're out in a place like a rainforest, it becomes abundantly clear that, well, that's not really how it works at all. And it's not that you shouldn't have a plan. You should try to have a plan. You should have a really good plan. But you have to be open to the possibility that this plan likely will change and may not work out. And training yourself to be comfortable, almost expecting that that may be how the day will go, and becoming much more comfortable with embracing that reality will help give you much more peace of mind. Now, this is an incredibly hard skill, and I'm speaking to myself as much as anyone else, but trying to remind myself that it's okay if things don't go 100% according to plan, and not it's okay if they don't, but more than likely they won't. If it rains, if the weather's not quite how I want it, if it gets too cold, if it gets too hot, things are going to change. And we're not exactly sure how that will affect our day, but being comfortable and becoming much more comfortable with the idea that it will affect our day is significant. I remember coming up to this trip, I was checking the weather multiple times a day. I was trying to figure out, okay, what day would be best for this hike? What day would be best for this part of the adventure? And it was almost driving me crazy because, again, with the Great Smoky Mountains being very rainy, very wet, the weather's a little bit unpredictable at high elevations. The weather patterns are changing so quickly. So I had to take a step back and recognize, okay, I know what things I would like to do, but I don't exactly know how that's going to work out. And I really had to take a second and remind myself and get into the headspace of, okay, no matter what, you're going to have a phenomenal time. You're in one of the United States national parks. It's one of the most beautiful places in the world. You're going to have an amazing time. And just through shifting the frame of mind, instead of how do I have the best time possible? How do I control all these uncontrollable elements that was driving me crazy? Because if things don't go according to plan, then all of a sudden we have to change the plan and all of a sudden we have to choose something new. And that will really drive us crazy if we're trying to control every element, control every minute, but instead practicing the skill of going with the flow a bit more, having different alternative plans that I can do throughout the day really brought me much more peace of mind and has allowed me to enjoy this trip much more. Developing mental adaptability, mental flexibility is such a hard skill because it fights against everything that we've really been told since growing up, many of us, where, okay, you have to have a good plan. You have to make sure things go your way. You have to, try to control as much as possible. And as we go on with life, a lot of times we see, we learn through maturity that that's not really the way that it works at all. We can come up with as good of a plan as possible, but if other variables that are outside our control don't work out, well, then we have to be more comfortable with being able to have this mental flexibility and going with the flow. It's a simple skill, but it's not easy because it fights against many urges that feel very natural for many of us, where we, feel most comfortable when we're in control. And the truth is, we're much less in control than we really give ourselves credit for. Being out in a natural environment like this really shows you where you don't know if it's going to rain, you don't know if the sun's going to come out, maybe it gets too hot, maybe it gets too cold as you get to higher elevation. You don't really know what it's going to be like. It's not that you shouldn't have plans. You should make really good plans and you should try to stick with them. However, you should also approach your plans and keep in mind that things may change, and through developing more mental flexibility, you'll likely enjoy life quite a bit more and you'll have significant increases in your peace of mind. If you enjoy this comment, like the video, subscribe. Let me know in the comments what you think an important skill for developing peace of mind is. And remember to hit life on all cylinders.